Keystone State. The Senate race here in Pennsylvania is one of the tightest in the country. And most important, the Democratic candidate, the former Navy Admiral Joe Sestak, has caught the Republican candidate, the Club for Growth Republican Pat Toomey, in the latest polls. We've got Joe Sestak here and ready to go. Plus, is it really that hard for a Republican candidate to name a single senator that she'd work with across the aisle? Well, for Republican Christine O'Donnell, it was. We'll get to that in our look at the race for the Senate. And President Obama and former President Bill Clinton hit the campaign trail to excite the Democratic base. Can they keep Congress in Democratic hands? That's ahead. Here we are, by the way, bringing a national television show to Temple University in North Philadelphia to meet the Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate right here in Pennsylvania, Congressman Joe Sestak. Congressman Sestak, sometimes an opponent sticks his chin out, and all you have to do is punch it. Here's Pat Toomey of the Club for Growth, proving how much he believes in the private market and doesn't believe in government action. Here he is on Morning Joe with the New York Times' Kurt Anderson saying that he would do nothing to save the steel industry of Pennsylvania. Let's listen.
So it was right for the steel industry in Pennsylvania to go away. We let it happen.
The steel industry had a lot of problems, some of which were self-inflicted, some of which came from excessively generous labor contracts. I mean, there was a nationalization that had to occur. Now, it's painful when that happens. But if we try to prop up failing business models, we end up losing prosperity because you misallocate capital to areas that where it shouldn't be spent.
So steel in Pennsylvania is a bad business model. We shouldn't be making steel. Your witness, Pat Toomey.
It's interesting. 1999, he didn't mind bailing out the I think it was called Long-Term Investment Corporation that was going under on Wall Street, from which he came. My gosh, manufacturing prowess is what made Pennsylvania and this country great. And yet Congressman Toomey has actually said that buying American is an unfortunate tendency.
Yeah.
You open up his book. Man, it's pretty scary. You know, remember when he was a lobbyist for Club for Growth?
Well, remind me.
Well, probably should be called Club for Shrinking because he actually tried to kick out the Republican Party monitors. But at that time, he actually circulated a petition for senators to sign up to oppose tariffs against Chinese illegally dumping cheap goods in America. Whose side are we on?
Well, I just want to know this. I grew up in North Philly, up along about Huntington Park. Park. We call it Huntington Park. It says Huntington Park on the signs. There used to be jobs. My grandpa was a Democratic committeeman. He used to get on the subway, take 2 stops on the subway, and have a factory job and come home with a good income. There are no manufacturing jobs around North Philly anymore. You have to have a service job or go into crime or something like that. When are you going to bring back real manufacturing industry jobs to Philadelphia? How do you do it? Well, that's my question.
You're just my grandfather, Lucan Steel, just up the roads in Coatesville, half empty right now. Look, we have to stop those corporation tax cuts that Congressman Toomey voted for. You know, a company today, it can close down a factory in America right here in Philadelphia, if there were one left. And then it can fire its employees, go to China, actually invest in a Chinese factory, have cheap labor, sell it back here to America. And you know what? Their profits in that factory aren't even taxed.
Okay, you're an activist Democrat against a laissez-faire Republican. Let's listen to your opponent, then you reacted. Here he is. We couldn't get him here today. We invited him. Anytime you want to come, Pat Toomey, come here. You can't come to Temple, though. You missed your chance. Here's George Stephanopoulos asking Toomey about Palin. That's Governor Palin, former Governor Palin's endorsed. By the way, she's endorsed Toomey. You worried? Here she is. Let's listen.
What do you make of her role in this campaign, and do you think she's qualified to be president?
Well, George, I'm very grateful for the support that I have from people all across the political spectrum, Republicans, Independents, Democrats. I welcome the endorsements that I've had from high-profile candidates and political figures and ordinary folks that I meet every day.
What a BS answer. What kind of an answer was that? I mean, he said, do you think she's qualified? George asked her a good question. Do you think she's qualified to be president? Sarah Palin, I'm going to ask you the same question. Is Sarah Palin qualified to be President of the United States?
No.
Okay, thank you. At least I got an answer.
But notice he didn't even mention her name. And remember that he once called her a spectacular governor, and she's funded his campaign and won't even mention her name. Pretty extreme. I know she is, but so's Congress.
Well, it looks like he's running away from her like a rabbit. Let's take a look here at Matt Lauer asking Toomey about the Tea Party this morning. Another big question. Your opponent. We couldn't get him here. I've got to use surrogates. Here he is answering.
You have a good deal of backing from the Tea Party. Dick Armey, who's one of the organizers of that party, has told the story. He says that when George W. Bush backed Arlen Specter, a moderate Republican, over you back in 2004, you being a fiscal conservative, that the Tea Party was born. Are you happy with that description?
Well, I think, you know, Dick Armey is entitled to his opinion about that. Here's what's really going on, right? The Tea Party movement is a group of ordinary Americans who are very worried about this country's future. They see too much growth in government, too much spending, a staggering amount of debt, and they're worried about the future of our country.
Well, you're running against the guy who says, well, every time you ask him a question. Well.
Yeah, you know, I'm really here's what I'm most concerned about. It's those extreme candidates like Christine O'Donnell in Delaware.
What do you think of O'Donnell?
To me that represent them.
Should she be in the Senate?
No. Absolutely not.
You think she's a witch?
Wants to do away with the 14th
Is she still
Amendment.
a witch or just once a witch?
Look, here's what I say. Congressman Toomey may not be a witch, but he sure has scary policies.
Okay, here she is. Here's Christine O'Donnell last night. In last night's debate, let's listen to her. She's from Delaware, right nearby here. I'm sorry, this is, well, let's talk about this one. Here's you bringing up Christine O'Donnell last night. Let's listen to that.
There are those that are running with Congressman Toomey, Mr. O'Donnell next door, for example, that want to do away with the 14th Amendment, that actually thinks there can be a state-established religion. Palin, Toomey, O'Donnell, they all would like to overturn Roe versus Wade. I don't think our law enforcement officers should have to go up against what we in the military had to, as the Army and the Marine Corps did in Iraq. I think those views with O'Donnell and others are too extreme for mainstream Pennsylvania.
What did you mean by our law enforcement officials shouldn't have to go up against what we're facing in Iraq?
Well, Congressman Toomey once said that his idea of gun control is a steady aim, and he's opposed to an assault weapons ban for military weapons.
I see.
My gosh, when we did away with those weapons, 20% less law enforcement officers were murdered by them. But here's the zaniest idea of all. Congressman Toomey actually wants to do away with all taxes on corporations. Zero. None for AIG, none for PP or anything, and that is really where
this new Republican Party. I grew up with a moderate Republican Party of people like you, Scott, and Bill Scranton and Rockefeller.
Yeah.
But look at these people. They want to get rid of the First Amendment. She doesn't recognize. She doesn't know there's no establishment clause. Well, that's true.
We recognize
they
that.
want to change the 14th Amendment. They want to change the 16th Amendment. They want to get rid of the 17th Amendment.
Yep.
They love the Constitution except any particular provision in it. What are they up to in the Republican Party?
I don't know. And
are they going far right?
They are going outside the Republican Party we once knew. And that's why Dick Armey called Congressman Toomey the father. Again, when he was head of Club for Growth, as the Philadelphia Inquirer right here in this city said, his number one job was to purge, kick out of the Republican Party any moderates. If you can't work with someone in your own party because you're so extreme, how are you going to work with the rest of us? And if the Senate needs anybody, it's how to get down there and work together to solve our problems.
Let's talk about you.
Yeah.
All right? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Joe Sestak wasn't supposed to beat Arlen Specter. You beat him. Specter was unbeatable. Everybody told me that. You can't beat Arlen Specter. You can't beat him in the primary. You can't beat him in the general. He's been around for 100 years. Nobody beats Arlen Specter. You beat him. You're now coming on against Toomey in the worst year for Democrats in forever. You're running even with a Republican in a big state. How do you run? You're not an establishment guy. You're not part of the regular Democratic organization. You're not especially popular among these guys. You're on your own. No, you're laughing and you know it's true. You're a loner politically. How can a loner win in this kind of environment if he's a Democrat?
By exactly running as I have. That young man right there said it all. Joe, I was the first guy, you were the first guy I ever voted for, right there. Why? In the military, you go to an aircraft carrier. You know what their average age is, those 5,000 sailors, Chris? 19 and a half. They want to believe that somebody's in it, not to be a politician, but to be a public servant. And that's the man, and that's the Pennsylvanian I want to serve. And they want someone to be independent, standing up to the party, or definitely willing to work with the other side, but making sure that by leadership you can change that darn Senate that's just not working.
Okay, let me ask you about what kind of Democrat you are. Back years ago, the great Governor Casey of this state got elected by, what, 1 million votes the last time he ran. Casey said that Pennsylvania is a tough state.
Yep.
It's not a Jane Fonda state. It's a John Wayne state. You got it?
I understand.
It's a tough
it well.
state. What kind of a Democrat are you? A Jane Fonda Democrat or a John Wayne Democrat? If there's such a thing as a John Wayne Democrat.
Well, you know Bob Casey Jr.?
Yeah.
I went to see him right afterwards. He said, Joe, you're the only guy who's ever run statewide from the Southeast that won in the T and won across all the state. Why? They respect veterans, but they also respect what we stand for. We swept all that state. And you know where I did best? Allegheny County.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Slovak, Sestak.
Okay.
No, more than that. They actually do respect
What
hard
kind of
work
name
and
is Sestak
perseverance.
anyway?
Slovak. My father was an immigrant. Best man I ever met.
How many Slovaks we got here? Yeah! I doubt it. Anyway, thank you. Good luck in the race. You got
Great
a lot
to
of
be here.
cojones.
And thanks,
And that's
everyone.
what anybody take Spanish here? Okay, thank you. Well, we're coming back. Joe Sestak coming up, and we're coming in Pennsylvania. We've got some big news in some other big Senate states around the country. Big races, plus new poll numbers in the Hardball scoreboard. That's all ahead here. You're watching the Hardball College Tour from Temple University in Philadelphia, only on MSNBC.